Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Rise and Recreate podcast. This is a space for people who have felt that pull to become more of who they truly are, even when that path doesn't make sense to anyone else. I'm your host, Raechel, and today we're joined by Sophia, who is a master certified life coach who helps women build lives and businesses aligned with who they truly are. She has repeatedly chosen the courageous path, leaving the religion she was raised in, pursuing her dream of becoming an author and a coach despite outside doubts, and moving her family to a brand new state where they knew no one. And through it all, she's learned to trust that quiet inner voice that guides us towards our next chapter. She is also an author of Unleash Your Favorite Self, a book that reminds us that only we get to define who we want to become. So I am so excited to have you on the Rise and Recreate podcast today. If you'd like to just go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a bit about where you currently are in life before we dive into your story of how you got here.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm so excited to be here. And yes, today in this present moment, I'm literally living my favorite life. But I am an open book. So I want to be very transparent that I'm going to tell you how freaking incredible what I have built is. And it took like I really started actively in 2011 being very intentional to this vision. So you're hearing my story 15 years in. And so I know a lot of the people listening to this, they're probably in the messy middle. And so please, as you're listening to my story and where I am right now, please use it for inspiration and hope and do not judge yourself in any way because I know I used to listen to people's stories and love it so much, but I wanted to know all of the hard parts because I always felt like I must have been doing it wrong because it was so messy. And you're not. The only way to get there is through. So anyways, this beautiful life that I have built is I knew that I wanted to become a coach and I finally made that happen 6 years ago. I am a certified life coach, but I've fallen into the kind of expertise lane of specifically working with female entrepreneurs because I love helping women create both a business and a life that they love. And everything about who you are in your business. I consider being a business coach at one point, but the reality is the most powerful way to help someone grow their business is actually to grow themselves because you will always be the glass ceiling holding back your business. So I work with entrepreneurs on a lot of that personal growth stuff. And as they expand as a person, and clean up all of their shit and their baggage, their businesses just naturally grow. And of course, some strategy and stuff like that will always come into play. But for the most part, that's my sweet spot lane that I love to be in. So I started my business, which my dream was to always have an online based business because my husband and I wanted to be able to live wherever we wanted. And finally, I had made enough that I could be the primary income earner because us choosing to move also meant my husband was going to commit literal career suicide because his industry doesn't exist here. Uh, And so the decision to move here was a really big one. And I can talk more about what all that means. But it was a really big decision. And it really came down to truly us asking, we made a 3-year plan. And it was a lot of questions of what are we really looking for? Where do we want to be? What do we want in a community? How do we want to raise our kids? I have a 7 and a 12-year-old right now. Um, and we just knew that we weren't satisfied where we were, and we never had been. We met in, Lakeland, Florida. I was raised in a town called Plant City, Florida, which is just like a red dot in the middle of the state, and I had, I never belonged. I never felt like I belonged there. I had this weird childhood experience where I lived in the rural Southern Baptist town, but I, went to magnet school, so I got on a bus and was shipped to urban Tampa every day from 6th grade till 12th grade. So I had these 2 parts of myself where I was experiencing in the heart of Tampa um, so much diversity and beauty and got to meet the most eclectic, interesting individuals with so many different backgrounds, which I think is what the national government wanted the magnet program to be. But you had this little girl raised in this Southern Baptist town with like inside these religious systems. And like this stuff just didn't add up. So like I had my church life and my church family, my Plant City life, and then I had this whole other life in Tampa. And I went to Tampa for middle school, high school, and then also college. I'm a graduate of the University of South Florida. And eventually those experiences just made me belong nowhere because I was in that place of like, anyways, hold on. We'll come back. I'll let you ask whatever questions you want. I forgot to tell you about this beautiful life I have now. So we didn't belong there. That's what I was trying to say. We didn't fit in. We didn't belong. My husband was raised in East Tennessee, but life brought him to Lakeland, Florida, which is how we met at 18 and 20. I was married when I was 20 years old on spring break of my sophomore year of college. And now we're like I'll be 40 in a few months. And so we've been together for a long time. And we asked a lot of questions. We considered moving internationally. We considered moving to the Pacific Northwest. We asked, like, what are we looking for? And ultimately, we chose a small mountain town outside of Asheville. And we moved a year ago, actually, in 2 days. It'll be the 1-year anniversary of us signing our house paperwork, right? Getting the deed. And we moved in and we knew nobody. I knew my realtor and I had joined some Facebook groups and made friends with this like one person who DM'd me a lot. And so like they were like a very connected person. And so I'm like between my realtor and this very connected leader of this really active social media group, like I'll somehow make friends. And I did. I've built a robust community. I feel I'm happier here than I ever was in the place where I'd been for 30 years. And I could talk a lot about like too how that happened, how I did that with a lot of intention. That was not by accident. So I would be like, oh yeah, go move everywhere. You'll just make friends. Like, no, there was a game plan and a strategy. Like that shit did not happen on accident. So I've built a beautiful community here. And this is like my husband and I can see ourselves like dying in this house. Like it would just be, I get to watch, I can see there's the Blue Ridge Mountains I can see from my front porch. And so I can see the sunrise and the sunset from the view that I have. And so I spend a lot of my mornings like that is my like when you think about everybody has like their happiest place to be or the happiest thing to do. Like when do you feel the most like at peace? And for me, long before I ever lived here, nothing ever felt as satisfying as when we go on vacations. Didn't matter which mountains. We've been to Austria, Colorado, Pacific Northwest. We've been to a lot of mountains, but nothing ever felt as at home to me as a mountain view with a cup of coffee and a sunrise. Like that is just the best. And now I do that every fucking day. Like every day I am on my front porch. In the winter, I like use the couch with the sliding glass doors, but like I am looking at that porch view and watching that sunrise and it is the favorite part. It is my favorite part of my day. And yeah, my kids are thriving, my marriage is thriving, and we've just really created the life that we wanted for ourselves.
I love that. Thank you so much. There's a couple of things. First of all, I feel you. I also am a mountain girl and from Florida, and I am the adult level now that I have patio furniture, and I sit on my patio furniture and look at the mountains every day too. But I think you said something very important here, and you are right. When everybody hits like the pinnacle, their goals, that is where they like to focus and spend all of their attention and talk about like, yes, I made it. I have a thriving business. I have my dream house. I have my dream family. But you also mentioned you're very open and transparent to the messy middle. And I think that's the part that people really need to hear the most because it helps everybody else through the
100%.
messy middle. And so I'd love for you to kind of take us back to a time when you had to almost realize that, okay, this life I'm living is not actually what I want. And you had to make one of those decisions where you trusted yourself more than any outside opinion.
I mean, there's no low. So I will say this that my whole story is weaved into my book with all the tools that I used that we could never fit into a podcast episode. So if anybody's like
Absolutely.
listening to this and they're going to do that, like it's all there. But I'm going to grab some of the highlights that I think can resonate with the most amount of people. So I think to give you the best picture of like our low, like the lowest of lows that I felt was we got pregnant in 2013, and so my daughter was born in January of 2014. And when prior to us getting pregnant, we had built up a very successful wedding photography and cinematography company. We had won awards. My husband is a filmmaker, he's a cinematographer, and he's really fucking talented. And so, like, about a year into making weddings, like, we were in the, like, highest bracket of what people will charge. So we were shooting for billionaires, like, literally, like, the second wealthiest person in Brazil, we shot their wedding at the Ringling in Sarasota. Like, we were in the upper echelon of weddings because my husband is brilliantly talented, and so they would hire us for video, and then I was a photographer, but I will just say I was, like, good. I was not amazing. I was just good. I was solid, but I was just like good. And so sometimes that we would book both because they're like, oh, look, a package deal. I want that. But if you wanted like true artistry, you would book my husband and then book some of like my incredibly talented friends who've been like award-winning wedding photographers who are just brilliant artists, right? I was just solid and they were like insane artists, right? But anyways, my husband's amazing. So we very quickly like skyrocketed into a full calendar and it was support. I left my full-time job that I had and we were doing the wedding photo video thing. And we did it for a couple of years, and but what was happening was the end goal was that he wanted to be in film. And when weddings are booking you out as far as 2 years in advance, and if somebody's like, Can you book can you shoot this feature? Can you shoot this documentary?" He had to turn down multiple jobs because he'd had contracts with brides. And so we realized that we were literally sabotaging our dreams, and so in 2013, we were like, "We need to start saying no to weddings and get into the commercial industry." He's like, "I'm gonna pivot to commercial work." Great, in theory. That was also the same time, and I had, like, my moment in 2011 where I realized, like, I wasn't doing what I wanted to do with my life. I hit burnout at 24 years old. I decided to take a week-long sabbatical, kick my husband out of the house, told him to take the 3 cats and go stay with friends, and I locked myself in my house and sat in silence for a week to figure out who I was and what I wanted to be. I felt like there was this woman inside who, like, was not me. I had nothing in common with her, and she was, like, screaming and crying to get out, but I couldn't even hear her because life was so busy and noisy. So I just sat in the silence for a week, and I found her, and I listened to her and what she was, like, asking me, like, who she was asking me to become, and when I, like, wrote it all down on paper, her and I had nothing in common, like, literally nothing. And so then I was like, "How do I become her?" But I could see her so vividly, and one of the things that I saw in her was I wrote down I still have it from 2011, and it said, "A full-time job helping others grow," and I wrote life coach, author, blogger, speaker, and I've now become all those things, but there was a period of time where I wasn't any of those things, and I actually forgot I had fucking written it down. I was a life coach in 2021? I had, like, left my job, I was doing it, and I, like, went to go find the old vision board with the thing. I knew I had written full-time job helping others grow, I never forgot that, but I did forget that I had found this graphic with 4 flowers and had written on each stem, and I had written down life coach a decade before and fucking like, I was like, "Oh my god, I did it!" So I just knew I wanted to help people, like, I wanted to help others grow, that was my purpose, right? So, anyways, we're doing this together, but I was this wedding for like basically running a production company and shooting weddings and had undiagnosed ADHD. I didn't get my diagnosis till 2021. So I was miserable with all the editing and the administrative. Like being a wedding photographer, and I shot other types of, but it was mostly weddings, is one day. So like 2 or 3 days out of the month of fun, all the ADHD fun, the people I could get the picture. But then it's the other 40 hours a week of shit that is awful if you have ADHD. It's administrative, it's marketing, it's editing, and so I was suffocating. It was a horrible fit for me. I was miserable, and I wasn't that great at, like, I was missing deadlines. I was so bad. It was so embarrassing how often, like, I would take too long to edit things, because I didn't have the executive function skills. I just thought I was bad at adulting. If I would have had access to the meds then that I have now, like, oh my god, I would have kicked ass, like, so much more than I did. But anyways, I had also so he's like, "I wanna do these more commercial work," and then I was like, "I want to not do this at all." Um, and so I was like I had changed my life with, like, health and wellness stuff, and I was like, "I'm gonna teach this to people." So I was like, "I'm gonna be a health coach," and so I start coaching people on, I was basically a health coach, okay? And so, I started doing this and thinking, like, this is going to replace my income. And don't get me wrong, I did have clients, and people were getting results. But the problem was we both drastically changed our careers at the same time and then got fucking pregnant. And we had bought a condo in the peak at 2006 because we were engaged and we were like, it's responsible to buy a house and, it's an investment. And, all of our parents were like, that's a terrible idea. This market is way too high. You should not do that. And we were like, we're responsible adults. So at 19 and 21 years old, we signed the paperwork for a 470-foot square condo that we bought for $65,000, and by 2009, in 2006, in 2009, it was worth $9,000. So we couldn't get out of it. We were stuck in it. So fast forward, we're now running a cinematography company in a condo that our gear can't even fit in. So my mom had let us take over my brother's old bedroom where we kept all of our gear. We basically had a storage unit in my mom's house. Um, and we're trying to do this entrepreneur thing and grow this business and everything. And then we both realized we're miserable. So we're like, let's do something else. And that's 2013. In 2013, my husband was like, I'll shoot 10 weddings because 10 weddings was going to basically pay the minimum bills. But we had been shooting 40. Okay. So you see the income disparity, right? And we had, so he says, I'm only going to shoot 10. We booked the 10 in 2012. People pay a 50% deposit and then 50% 2 weeks before. So all the money was fucking gone. So all we have is half of the money of the 10 2013 weddings coming in, thinking we're going to replace it with these new business ideas. Then we get pregnant. So all that to say, we short sell the condo. We can't afford our lives at all because it takes a while to build a reputation. And I moved in and my daughter was born in January. In October, November, we were short selling the condo. We had to move out. They had found a buyer or whatever. It sold for $16,000. And we moved in to my mom's house. And for 3 months, we stayed with her at the end of my pregnancy. And my mom kept saying over and over again, every single day. So I am pregnant. My husband's trying to get in commercial work. And she's like, when are you going to get a job? When are you going to get a job? Who's going to get a job? Who's going to get a job first? And we knew in our whole spirit, pumping through our blood veins, no one's getting a fucking job around here. I know that sounds crazy. You would think that, first of all, I would like to say I did go on multiple job interviews that actually, I think I would have kicked ass at those jobs, but I also had a stomach. I was very pregnant. And so even though I would have done amazing at those roles and the people who they hired didn't even last very long, I would have probably done a better job and lasted longer, but they were scared of a pregnant woman. So I did actually try, but I'm a woman and welcome to America. So I was not able to get a job. And I think she probably wanted Brandon to go get a job, but he was so much better off not. Caveat, we're in Florida. People are like, why are you in the film industry? Not in LA. We tried to go to LA in 2009. Peak recession, door shut in our face. It was a disaster. It was the universe basically saying we were given basically the doors opened and then were fucking slammed in our face so hard that it was the clearest no. So we were like, okay. So we said, let's go be a big fish in a little pond of Tampa Bay versus be a minnow in the ocean of LA, right? We're like, that's what we're just gonna do this Tampa thing. That's how we decided to go the video production route, right? When we were pregnant, we're like, we really need to make this. Brandon spent 3 weeks of the pregnancy in Atlanta staying with his cousin because Atlanta had a growing film industry. And so we thought that would be a better fit. That door also slammed so hard in our face. And so it was so clear, we were dreaming on one of our first dates of moving out of Florida. So the fact that, and by the way, also, I judged people hardcore who did not leave after they graduated high school. I had all these thoughts of you graduate high school, you go to a college out of state, you build your own life. I grew up in this small town where I remember thinking it was so weird that people not only lived in the same neighborhoods, but there were so many people on family plots of land. You've got grandma, cousins, and, everybody's got a house. They got 5 acres and everybody's got a house on it. I am this is weird. Because I had grown up with my parents moving state to state. My whole childhood, I went to 4 elementary schools. So I was like, you move away. What is this staying thing? So I thought staying was so weird. And then I got a full ride scholarship to USF. They actually were going to pay me to be in the honors college versus student loans I would have needed for other universities. It just made no logical sense to not financially take this. And I got offered my dream job at 18. I wanted to be a magazine editor, and the local magazine asked me to be their editor when I graduated high school. So it was just like the universe say, oh, and I met Brandon the same week. So it was just like the universe was like, stay put. I was like, okay, I'll stay put. And then I meet this guy, and then I got married at 20, and I was so judgmental of people who got married young. Like, I didn't even want to date. I had one boyfriend in high school, and I was like, that was for 1 month. And I was like, that was too much energy, too much exhaustion, too distracting. What the fuck was that breakup experience of like, you talk to them every day and then they're just fucking gone? No.
Yeah.
I will date when I'm ready to marry. So my plan was to start dating after undergrad. I was like, if I start dating around 22 years old, then probably I can get married around 25. That was my plan when my husband met me at 18. So I just want you guys to know I was not this like small town girl excited to like meet her love, whatever. Like that was
Mhm.
not the strategy, but we met and it was just meant to be. He's my person. We consider our anniversary the day we met, April 1st, 2005. And so I meet him, like all this stuff comes together, right? This story is like so all over the place. I have ADHD. I already told you that. Okay,
Oh,
so
I'm following it quite well.
going
You're good.
yeah. So going back to 2013, 2014. So you can like see how we've been trying so hard to get away. We've been trying to make this work. We've been like trying to chase these dreams. And it's like closed door, closed door, closed door, closed door. So then we're now living with our parents, cannot financially support ourselves, like would not have qualified to like go get rent on an apartment. And we basically had about $2,000 a month coming in, but we had $2,000 in credit card payments and car payments. So like the money was gone. I guess we could have gone bankrupt, lost the cars and lost the credit cards, and then had $2,000 to like go rent something, right? But we didn't. We didn't choose bankruptcy. We did short sell the condo, but we we lived with my parents, and we basically just had enough to cover our minimum payments everywhere. And we had gotten ourselves in a big pickle.
And you're pretty pregnant at this point.
Very pregnant. So,
Yeah.
my mom every day, when is somebody gonna get a job? Like she is not making us cozy or feel welcome, okay? And I kept saying to her over and over again, I said, "Mom, I have so much peace that after the baby comes, we're gonna know what to do. I don't know what else to tell you. There was no urgency in me. I wasn't even fucking stressed. I should have been stressed. I wasn't. I got in a car accident. A boat pulled out in front of me. I hit the boat. I was 8 months pregnant and like ran into this boat in the road. And I wasn't like, you could have put a blood pressure machine attached to me and my heart rate didn't even increase. I was like, I don't know if I was like numbed or checked out, but I was just like, what? Everything's going to be fine. I was pregnant and totally believed. I just had this inner knowing that all this shit was going to work itself out. And so then when the car came, I did try to brake, but then he hit me and I was like, well, look at that. I hit a boat, it flipped over. I guess this will also work itself out. And so and then like the guy, like I climb out so pregnant. I can still see that stranger's face. He was like, oh shit, because it was his mistake. And then like imagine like climbing out and this very pregnant woman's like waddling over to you. He felt like shit. So anyways, I just was so calm. And so I say to my mom, I'm like, Mom, I just have this peace. Everything's going to be okay. I just keep hearing, after the baby comes, you'll know what to do. After the baby comes, you'll know what to do. After the baby comes, you'll know what to do. And I said, so just like, let me get through this pregnancy. When the baby comes, I'll know what to do. And so when the baby comes, I have half of my mom's craft room. Okay. So my mom had converted one of the bedrooms into a craft room and she still had all the crafts. So we put a bed in there and my quote unquote nursery was me and the baby there. And we had a different sleeping room for Brandon because I knew from pregnancy that I had babysat for these people who had like separate bedrooms for the baby that would cry and a bed in there. So whoever was like doing the baby could sleep in there and like they slept separately every night. And I thought that was brilliant. And I loved that. And so we never actually slept together while we had babies. So there was just a bed in the baby room. So anyways, I've like got this separate space for me and the baby. And, we had nothing. We had actual nothing. I still remember, before we short sold the condo, being in the condo, not being able to like, did not have enough money to pay any of our bills. And my sister-in-law sent me a box of baby clothes and it was the only baby clothes I had. And I remember crying, thinking, I'm so grateful that she sent me these clothes, but my credit cards are maxed out and there's no money in the bank account. Like, how the fuck am I going to provide for this baby if I actually can't go to like Target or somewhere right now and like buy their sizes? And I just remember sobbing thinking like, thank God she sent me this clothes, but what am I going to do? Um, Nobody knew how broke we were. Like, nobody knew how broke we were. Even that sister-in-law who sent the clothes did not know that we were actually, like, on WIC. I had, like, government support coming in, and she's like, "I had no idea you guys were that broke. I thought you just wanted to get out from underneath the upside down condo." And I was like, "We just hit it." Like, there was so much shame in that, right? We were 27 and 29 and couldn't support ourselves and had a baby on the way, and I was like a straight A kid, gifted program, fucking full ride scholarship to USF from the honors college, and I, like, can't support myself. Like, society made me believe, like, "You're smart, you're gonna be great at everything," and it turns out owning a business is, like, hard. And so the baby comes, and when the baby was 3 days old, I will save all the details, but this really did happen to us. Through a random series of events, somebody asked us if we would do them a favor and move into the vacant house that they had 2 blocks from my mother's house because, like, the aunt was dying and, like, if it's vacant, they won't renew insurance, and, like, the aunt hadn't died and the house had been in the family, and they just didn't know what to do with the fucking house, and then they learned about us through a random series of events, and the house was exactly what we had written down on a sheet of paper what we needed, which neighborhood made the closest sense because 'cause it'd be close to the interstate and how many rooms and, like, what it was literally only what I had written on the paper. 2 bedrooms, had a garage access for his gear to get in and out. And then I had selected 2 neighborhoods that made the most sense. It was in one of them. I forgot to put on their AC. Like, I just didn't think to write, like, Florida AC, like everybody has AC, right? So it didn't actually have central AC. It had, like, window units, but it had only what I had written down on that paper that we needed. And then it was given to us. They asked us to move in for free to just take care of the house so the family could buy time to figure out what they were gonna do with this property because, like, nobody lived nearby anymore. And we moved into this home that was straight out of it was built in 1957, but she, must have done a redecoration in the 1970s and then never updated anything ever again. And so we move into this very 1970s home with, like, yellow countertops and a pink bathroom and yellow floors, walls, and countertops, like, full-blown yellow, kitchen and, like but we moved in, and I just remember being so grateful, like, so grateful that we were given this home 2 blocks from my parents' house. Um, and that's when we started the rebuilding of our lives. Eleanor was 6 months old when my husband got a phone call that somebody who was supposed to be the director of photography on a feature, like, something happened last minute, they had to pull out, like, "Can you shoot this feature?" But because we had not taken any weddings and his calendar was open, he said
Mhm.
yes, and he got his first feature in August of 2014, and they paid him $4,000, and we needed $4,000 a month to survive. That's what our bills then now, inflation, okay? I don't know how people get
Yes.
4,000 now, but in 2014, $4,000 was what it took for us to survive a month, and they paid him that for a month to shoot that feature. Um, and then from there, that's really, like, the part of the rebuilding, and I think also, while pregnant, giving birth and having the newborn is also when we had been slowly realizing that some parts of, like, evangelicalism had some red flags. So we were kinda like, "I don't really like this part, I don't really like this part," but, like, still we're going to church. Um, and in the middle of my pregnancy, like, literally the last couple of months, and as she was a baby, because I actually had the pastor come over and, like, put his hand on the head and do whatever the hell they do. So, like, in the middle of this, the church was blowing up in a way that just was very, "What the fuck is all of this?" And I did go she was born in January, we went to church Easter with her because I, like, wanted to, like, show her off to people or whatever, and then we never went back, and then we never went back, and so we left the religion we were raised inside. So as we're going through, like, the bottom of our lives, we also left the community we were in. And if anybody listening to this, if you were raised inside religion, you understand that it's all built on a network and a community based on you're allowed in our community as long as you continue to believe we believe. And we left because we didn't believe what they believed anymore. And so then we didn't belong. We were too they didn't use the word woke then. We were, I don't know, liberal? We were what did they think? Heretics? Heretics, probably. I don't know. what you would label us. But we were like of the world. That was told to me multiple times that I had chosen to be, that we're as Christians, you're supposed to be in the world, not of the world. And I had chosen to be of the world because the more I got to know the people of the world, they were a lot fucking kinder and nicer and more like Jesus. That was really the thing that broke me, was like the more I got outside evangelicalism specifically, because I have found some beautiful Christian communities years later that have helped me heal a lot of that baggage. But the system I was inside of, the people who actually had the ability to love unconditionally and the poor and lead with kindness, um, they kept being people. Like, every time I would meet somebody where I was like, "Dude, I feel like you, like, got some major Jesus vibes going on," they were never part of a church, over and over and over and over again. And I was like, "Something's broken." So, like, years of that through high school and college, being like, "Something's not adding up. Something's not adding up. Something's not adding up." It all hit the fan in 2014 where we just could not deal anymore. So then we left. Now imagine how that goes over with grandparents, with siblings who believe in a hell, and you have like, we're not going to raise our kid in the church. We're not going to teach them that they have to get saved. Like, to this day, my mother still cries thinking that her grandkids are going to go to hell because, like, take them to church to get saved. Um and so we're like losing our community while all this other shit is falling apart. But I do think, like, that was the low, and then from there, it was just so much, because one of the things that, like, when you lose everything, then actually I feel like what we lost were so much of the life that society said we should do, should want, should have. And then when that didn't work out, we were basically handed a blank slate to say, well, that fucking sucked. So how about we ignore all of that and what do we want? And then we started leading from this blank slate place because we no longer had formulas we had to fit inside of. And then the more we got to know ourselves and who we were and what we wanted and what our strengths were, we started building a life around what we genuinely wanted, what I call your favorite self, because it means you had to write it and you had to define it. And that's when we started really doing that. Um, and yeah, that's how we got here. It's a piece of how we got here.
Yeah. What I really love about your story is I've done a lot of these, and yours just weaves in another person so beautifully. Like, this isn't just your story. Like, you and your partner were doing all of this together. Like, every step of the way, it was like you both reinventing yourselves separately, but also as one. And I think that's a very interesting aspect to the story. But you said a couple of times, like, you took that week to really tune in to figure out what you wanted. You said the house that randomly appeared, you had written down on a piece of paper. And so was this something that you had learned externally, or was this just something you felt intuitively drawn to do?
Great question. I definitely had, so in 2011, when I took that week sabbatical, I had not read any books or taken any trainings. I had not done anything personal growth related. I just had a girlfriend who was in a network marketing company that told her to make a vision board, and in her kitchen she had a vision board, and I'd never seen one before. And she was like in my small group at church or whatever, and I was like, "Oh, what's this?" And she's like, "Oh, it's a vision board. You like take the goals you have in life and you like put magazine clippings, and it's like now you know what you're working towards." And I was like, "Oh, that's a cool fun idea." That was literally all I knew. That was my exposure, was I had seen one. And so when I took this silent retreat and locked myself in my house for a week, I was asking a lot of introspective questions. And so that I took the time that week to be like, what do I want? What are my goals? And I chose to ask myself the question, if you died today, what would you be disappointed never happened? And I took a sheet of notebook paper and I just answered those questions. And then I took those answers and went on Google Images and found different things that symbolized each one. And then I sent them to 1 hour CVS printing, and I got a corkboard and I just pinned up those Google Images. And to this day, I've saved those because that was a very transformative part of my life, was like asking myself that question, because from there it became the compass. Like, that vision board served as the compass because everything was either going to take me closer to my goals or they were a distraction. That's what I believe from that point forward. It was either it's gonna help me do one of these things on here, or it's taking away and distracting me from this. And that became the litmus test. And so That's like the vision board part of it. The piece of paper thing, I think that was, that was around the time that The Secret was really popular. And I know that it can be seen as problematic, and I'm not like here to be like, I actually I talk about this in my book. This is what I believe. And actually, if this is video, I'm gonna grab something real quick. Um, so I do believe in like a lot, like the law of attraction and like writing what you want. I do believe that is so important. But there were years where year after year after year, I wrote down the same visions. I was doing that whole secret shit, and it was like, this is what I want, and this is how I'm gonna make it happen. Or and I would like write blank checks to myself. And but here's the missing piece of that. And this is why I teach it differently to my clients. That is a big okay, and so we did write that down. It was like we need to like we need to write down what it is we are looking for. And so I do believe the writing down is so important. And also, it's the first step. It is not the only step. And so now, like if somebody is able to see the video version of this, I'm showing you that now when I do vision boards, they have all of them have 3 parts. So the first thing is what do I want? Which by the way, when you and I get off, I'm headed down to Asheville, which is like 40 minutes from my house. My Outback is ready. So you can see that my one here getting the Subaru Outback. They emailed us about 2 hours ago and said it's ready for pickup. So as soon as we get off, I'm driving over to Asheville because my Subaru Outback is ready.
I love that.
It is first step is like, what do you want? And then to change your life, you have to change your habits. So everything I've ever changed, I had to change some part of what I am doing every day. So it is those tiny micro moments. Literally, it's less than I'm not even talking about 15-minute moments. I'm talking about the tiniest decisions, the narrowest you can get it down to. Like the reason I go to bed on time is because I realize that after I check my daughter in at 8:30, I cannot walk to any place other than the bathroom. If I close her door and I walk to my bed or the couch, I am in a sit pit and have to get myself out of it, and that is very problematic and hard. But if I walk straight to the bathroom and I do my evening routine and I take my nighttime vitamins, I will be asleep by 9:30, and tomorrow will go so much better because I had a full night of sleep. And so when I talk about your habits, I'm talking about the tiniest moments, like that little decision. When I close her bedroom door, which steps am I taking? Am I walking across the hall to my room? Am I taking 4 steps to the bathroom, or am I taking 12 steps to the living room? And if I don't choose the bathroom, tomorrow's fucked. Because I get stuck in an ADHD sit pit and I'm online or I'm this or I'm that, or I read my book, I get lost in my romance novels. And to motivate myself to get back to the bathroom to take my nighttime vitamins and wind my brain down and do my steps, like it's a whole fucking thing, the energy to like get back up, right? So when I say your habits, I'm talking about the tiniest moments of your day. And so you start with the goals, like what do I want? But then what habits am I willing to change to get there? And so you have to have the habits I have pictures of the habits also on my vision board because I understand that they are a big part of me getting there. So habits are genuinely how I changed a lot of my life. But then the further I got into coaching, and in the beginning, there was versions of this that were just about habits. But the more I got into coaching, changing my life, helping other people change their life, I realized that actually at the end of the day, the root cause of everything is your thoughts, because you have to change what you're thinking, because what you're thinking becomes how you're feeling. How you are feeling, depending on the mood you're in and whether you're excited or defeated or whatever, you will choose different behaviors from the emotional state you're in. And those behaviors that you choose produce your results. Well, a lot of people want to change their results by changing their behaviors. That doesn't work, because if you are like, so your habits, right? Oh, I'm going to start working out every day, or I'm going to start doing this, or I'm going to start doing that. If you're only looking at the behaviors, it doesn't work. Because your emotions, whether like, let's just take the workout thing. Do you feel good about your body? Do you feel like shit about your body? Like, how are you feeling? Do you feel lazy? Do you feel motivated? How you are feeling will determine whether you actually show up for the workout. But you know what? How you're feeling has everything to do with the thoughts you're telling yourself. So are you telling yourself you're too fat? Are you telling yourself you don't have time? Are you telling yourself you're too busy? Like, what's the shit happening in your head? And so you have to manage your mind to change your life.
Absolutely.
I still love a vision board. I do a new one every year. I update it annually. or annually-ish, like I did an 18-month one. Like it's like seasonal. It's like, okay, this is like the next big push. So it may not
Mhm.
be the actual 12 months, but I always have a vision board that is relevant to like this season in life's goals, right? The one before this one was all about getting to the mountain. It was called like everything was about getting us to Waynesville. And so like it was like what has to be true for us to be able to put this house on the market and be able to buy something up there. And so at the center of my vision board is the thought that I know has to change. Like, what is the most important new thought that is the domino to help produce all these different results? Right. So, to your question, like, did I write it down? Yes. But it's not just the writing it down. You have to change your behaviors and your habits and your thoughts.
Absolutely. The thoughts, I mean, that's the most consistent thing that's happening typically not within our consciousness. And it's when you start to become aware of those that you're like, "What? Like, why am I even thinking about this self? That's so rude. Like, why would I think that about my body? Why would I think this?" And a lot of times that does come from, our programming and
Yes.
just shit we heard our whole life and whatever it may be until you choose to consciously really
Yes.
notice what's going on up there.
Yes, and my favorite
But
entry point sorry, real quick on that. My
oh,
favorite
go
entry
ahead.
point is actually to listen to your emotions because it's really hard to read your thoughts. Because
Oh,
they
yeah,
feel so
absolutely.
true to you, and they're just like you just think you're being normal, but your emotions will tell you. So a lot of times with my clients, I do a lot of emotional work, sometimes conscious, sometimes subconscious. I do, like, subconscious rewiring sessions, but I also, um, like, chapter 4 of my book is dedicated to teaching the thought wheel. So it's this a way to change your thoughts, but the entry point, the doorway into changing your thoughts is actually through your emotions. Because when you're like, "I'm feeling lazy," why? And then if you can ask why, because the emotions can be felt and recognized and seen so much easier than the thoughts. And so I actually believe that the easiest way to change your thoughts is to actually start listening to your emotions.
Well, and just, yeah, paying attention and noticing and not just saying like, "Oh, this is just who I am." Like, no,
Yes.
it's not.
Yes.
It's just one aspect of you and you can change it, just like you can change all of your beliefs. So I think with the time left, I would love to jump to the part of your story where how you started a business, because I think a lot of people listening are always like, "Oh, this is what I want to do. I want to work for myself. I'd say the majority of listeners here want to help other people, like very empathetic in nature, have a deep desire to help others, and are maybe stuck in the it's not quite a reality yet and the wheels are spinning and I don't see any evidence in my 3D reality."
Okay. So I've had multiple businesses now, right? So we had the cinematography company. I had this season where I was doing health coaching. And now I'm built this life coaching business. First of all, the how you start a business, do not. I know that there's so much on the internet that is all about like the strategies and the business plans and the paperwork and the website and the Instagram account. All that will drown you. The way to start a business is to figure out, okay, you wanna help people. Every business helps people because every business is an exchange of money for some problem you're solving. So what problem are you solving? Whether I'm buying something on Amazon, I bought my son new swim goggles because the other ones were leaking, he joined the swim team, it's not working. Like, they solved the problem of me having the proper type of swim goggles that work for being on a swim team, right? So I gave them my $20. Sometimes it's small like that. But on Monday, I'm dropping $20,000 to join a new coaching program for a very specific mentor that I want to open up. And once a year, she opens up a very specific program that I've been wanting to get in for a few years. And I'm finally ready to do the work. Right. So why am I going to give her 20 grand? Because I firmly believe with all the confidence in the world that she can take me to the next level in my business. And the things that I don't yet know how to do and the growth I'm ready for, I genuinely believe she is the best teacher. And it's a 12-month program. And I feel really good about spending this money. The Subaru I'm leaving here to buy, right? That's ready for me and waiting. They're solving the problem of the fact that our Prius the engine blew and the repair didn't make sense to do. So I'm down to one car. They're solving the problem of the fact that we cannot function as a one car family. So it doesn't, they're all helping me. My coach is helping me. The person who sold me goggles is helping me. The car, they're helping me. Everybody, if you're not helping, you don't even have a business. So every business, no matter what you're doing, you are helping somebody. But the place that can destroy you is getting caught up in it makes you feel like you're doing something, like you're checking a box, like, "Oh, I worked on my website. Oh, I made an Instagram reel or carousel," or, "Oh, I, like, worked on this paperwork thing and my business plan." The way you help people is you go out into the world and you meet people and you tell them what you do and you make offers to help them. Like, you literally just start doing it. And if you're like, "I don't know what to charge," make it up. Start with a number that you feel good about. Are other people in the industry charging $500, but that number scares you? And you're like, I would be happy if someone gave me $75. That would feel amazing. Then go do it for 75 until you have
what did you go say to people? Like, when you were out in the world going and talking to people, like, what did you go say to strangers at the coffee shop?
you well, first of all, now every industry is gonna be different, right? So every business is different. But going out and talking is actually going out and listening. You have to be the person controlling the conversation is the person asking the questions. And so you actually wanna go out into the world and be the most curious person in the room. What do you do? And then, like, it's very natural to, like, steer it that direction, right? So, like, I've coached an introverted, she literally has a PhD in bugs, and so she's, like, a consultant for pest control companies, and she was very introverted and needed to, like, work a room. I have a female she's in a male-dominated industry. I have another female who runs an MSP, so managed service provider that's, like, an IT company that's, like, her clients are like really big, high risk stuff, like medical HIPAA stuff, right? And so, like, how do you go out into the world and sell that? So, like, I'm selling life coaching. One person's selling being an expert in bugs. Another person's selling IT. And I teach the same technique for all of that. But it is like you go and you just get curious, get to know them. What like Ask them about their business, ask them about their lives, be fucking normal, don't be weird, and don't do most of the talking, because if you ask the right questions, you can a lot of times lead that conversation to something you're actually capable of helping with, and then it's very simple to be like, "Oh, I actually might be able to help you with that. Let's grab coffee. Let's hop on a Zoom call. Let's connect on Instagram. Let's follow each other." Like, I don't go out into the world selling myself. I go out into the world showing up as who I am, genuinely caring about people, and I never know where my next client's gonna come from. I never know who's gonna need what I have to offer, but I just show up as myself and let people know what I do. I don't keep it a secret that I'm a life coach. It's not the, like, covert business. Some people are really afraid to say, "This is what I do," because it feels so vulnerable to be like, I am a bug expert, right? And so, like, whatever the thing is, you go out into the world, let people know what you do, and then just be helpful.
Yeah.
That's what I've learned from my mentor that I'm referring to, whose program I'm buying into. Her name is Stacey Bayman. She is a mentor specifically for life coaches. But, like, that's the method that she teaches. Meet people, tell them what you do, make offers to help. And I have taught that I've coached a couple of coaches, but for the most part, my clients are small business owners across so many different industries. And that same formula has worked for 100% of them.
Would you say that, like, when you were first starting your business and, you gave yourself the title life coach, you did all of the training, you did all of the things, and now you're like, "Oh, but I need, money to fund my life. I have
Yeah.
kids and mortgages and all of that stuff."
Yeah.
Would you say originally the majority of your business came from offline, interactions?
100% of them did.
Yeah.
People wanna do business with people. The way that I finally grew my business, so when I first, I had, like, 3 clients, and we were draining our savings. We had learned from our lessons of 2014. So this time, when I went off into life coaching, I had a 4 years in my story. Like there's just so much more to share, but part of my story is that I did take 4 years and go work for a nonprofit and get like a traditional paycheck to help us get out of debt, stabilize our lives, and then build up a savings account. So when I left to be a full-time coach, I didn't have any of that scarcity. So I will also tell people listening that sometimes the worst thing you can do is go full-time in your business. Like you need to have a different income source. In my case, it was my spouse, a savings account plus my spouse had at that point had a stable income that could provide for the family. But if you cannot start a business wanting that business to feed you and pay the mortgage, you need to you need to give your business the gift of not actually providing for you while you that way you can learn the lessons and you can put the money back into the business. But I forgot the original question you asked me. Did I do it in person? Okay. So there was a period of time where I had 3 clients, and then I found this mentor, I learned this concept. I was wasting so much fucking time on my website and Instagram and stuff online, and then she was like, "Go out into the world and meet people," and I started applying her methods to how I was networking and talking about myself, and I used her course to learn how to, like, make my consultations even better. But all that to say, I went out into the world and met a bunch of real people, and I went from 3 clients to 17 in 90 days.
Nice.
100% of them were from showing up at events and meeting real people and then making offers, and the offer to help wasn't always a consultation. I, like, would be teaching a workshop and be like, "Oh, you can, like, come to this thing that I'm doing," or, "I'm gonna do this," or, "Let's grab coffee," or, like but I always just, like, had a next step. I just became a person who was constantly extending invitations, going to the
Mm,
world, meeting people, and having something to invite them into. Um, and I went from 3 clients to 17 in 90 days.
that's amazing. And what year was this?
Um, that 90-day period ran across the holiday season of 21 into 22.
And now here we are in 2026, and you have bought a house where you love where you are. I think you said your husband is not doing any commercial videography out there.
I mean, like, occasionally, he only gets hired if he gets on a plane to go do the job. Like, they have to want to fly him to where they are, so he's
Right.
taken an 80% pay cut.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so I'm financially supporting my family. I think for your listeners, I actually think, because I know we're coming up on time, I think one of the last things that they probably would love to hear is something my husband said in 2022. So we knew we weren't happy. 2022 was the year we decided we wanted to move to Waynesville. And um we made a 3-year plan, and again, we had 3 years to back out of this plan, right? And I remember saying to him 6 months in or something, "Babe, are you really sure that you want us to move to West North Carolina? Because there is no your industry is not here. Like, if your industry's in Charlotte, it's in Raleigh, but it is not in our population, town has 10,000 people." Right. I was like, "It is not gonna be there." And I said, "Are you sure you're not gonna regret that?" And he said, "I know the kind of childhood I wanna give my kids, and this is not this concrete building." And he said, "There's 2 scenarios. Like, when I'm an old man sitting on a rocker, reflecting back on my life, I don't wanna live with regret. And I don't see a scenario where I'm years old and being like, 'I really regret that I never got on that Netflix show or shot.'" He's shot, like, probably 15 feature films, documentaries, whatever at this point, but, none of them have been, like, the big budget stuff. They've all been indie projects, and he's like, "I'm not going to regret that I didn't get to shoot a major production or a Netflix show, but I would always regret that I didn't give my kids the childhood I wanted to because I don't get to repeat that opportunity to raise them. I don't get a do-over with that, and I would ha I that is something I would regret, and I don't wanna live with that." So, yeah, I would rather. He's also like, supportive person, so, like, he loves the idea of being a stay-at-home dad one day. Right now, he's still, like, doing little projects here and there, but he would love to stop doing all of it and just be full-time dad and support me in my business, which I know like not all men feel that way, but that's how he's programmed. And so his friends think he's nuts. They literally, all of his friends in the industry in Tampa who watched him climb, right? So I told you those sacrifices we made. 13 and 14 as he broke into the commercial. Well, he didn't just break into the commercial industry. He was considered like, if people were making a list of, like, the top cinematographers in the Tampa Bay area, his name would always be on the list. Now, they may not say he's number 1, they might debate him, there's, like, 2 or 3 other guys, but he would always be on anybody's short list. "Oh, you need a cinematographer in Tampa Bay? You one of these 5." Like, but he would always be on that list. Everybody in the industry knew him. He built that reputation one person at a time, right? And then builds to the top. He's working on all the highest stuff. He's working on Lightning and ESPN and University of Florida and like all the hospital systems. Like he made it to the top. He's shooting features, shooting the highest budget commercial work, and then was like, peace out. And his friends are think he's insane. They literally said, "You're committing career suicide because you don't go up from here. You basically just spent 15 years building up a career to walk away from it." And he's got no regrets.
I love that though. That kind of comes back full circle to you really are the only one who can define what it is that you truly want in this life, regardless of everybody else's outside opinions. And sometimes that's really hard to hear. I'm sure that was hard for him to hear all of his friends saying, like, you're committing career suicide. What the fuck are you doing? And him holding so firmly to this belief and this dream of no, like, that was my dream. Yes, I did the majority of it, but now my dream is giving the kids the life that I really want for them, not in the concrete jungle, out in nature, in the mountains, where they see their mom thriving and happy because she's waking up and living her dream every day. And so that's just such a beautiful reminder. And I also use the old lady sitting on a rocking chair to dictate a lot of my life of what will I think when I am that old lady and I'm sitting on a rocking chair, just like reflecting back on my life. What are the pivotal moments for me of which way am I going? Which path am I choosing? Because it really is our choice. And when you take the time to be introspective, ask yourselves the questions, that's when you find the answers of what you truly want and not what the world has laid upon you. So I would love for with the last few minutes we have, if there's any other messages, of course, I'm going to put your book and all of your links in the description below so people can find you and read more about your story. I want to get your book and read more about this. This has been a very enlightening conversation. But if there's anything else left on your heart, I'd love for you to share that.
Yeah, I would just say, I show up the most on Instagram. So, hashtag or and the Sophia Hyde, THE in front of my name. And that's where I'm at. Come follow me, slide into my DMs if something resonated with you. If you have a question, like that's where I am at online is what I'm actually checking. Oh, and I've recently fallen in love with Threads. We met through Threads.
We
Like,
did. We
okay,
met through Threads.
I have recently fallen in love with Threads. So I am on Threads and I am on Instagram. I have profiles on all the other stuff. I just forget to check all the other things. So if you message me on LinkedIn or TikTok, I'll see it in 6 months. But like I am on those spaces. Come find me there. And yes, I have a website and coaching and the book and all those links. You can go find those. But I would love to have a chat. I love meeting new people. So come say hi on Instagram or Threads. And I really appreciate you having me here today.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. Thank you to everyone listening, and we will see you next time.
Bye.